She was laughed at the moment she handed her badge at the base entrance. A young officer sneered and said, "What is this? Did you print this at home?" The soldiers nearby whispered and pointed, barely hiding their smirks. But then the scanner froze. A sharp alarm cut through the air, and on the screen, glowing against the gray monitor, appeared a symbol nobody had seen in 6 years, an eagle with broken wings wrapped around a clock. When that symbol appeared, when the system spoke the words Echo 01, every sound in that room died. Nobody laughed after that. But here's what nobody in that room understood yet, and what you won't understand either until the very last second of this story. The reason she came to this base had nothing to do with clearance. It had everything to do with a name on a file that should have been buried forever. Stay with this, because what happens at the end of this story will change how you see everything that came before it. Drop a comment and tell us what city you're watching from today, and if stories like this one deserve to be told, subscribe to Gray Story right now. Maya Holt stood at the entrance of Northfield Military Installation on a Tuesday morning that smelled like rain and diesel. Her dark hair was pulled into a low bun, a few strands loose at her temples. She wore a gray t-shirt under a canvas jacket the color of old moss, faded at the elbows, the kind of worn that comes from years rather than fashion. Her jeans were clean but unremarkable. Her boots had seen better decades. She carried a small leather satchel, the kind that looked like it had been resoled and restitched so many times the original material was mostly memory. She walked to the gate and placed her ID card on the scanner tray without being asked. The officer at the gate was named Lieutenant Graves, mid-20s, the particular confidence of someone who had been given authority before he'd earned wisdom. He picked up the card the way someone picks up something they expect to throw away. He turned it over. His expression performed disbelief for the small audience of soldiers behind him. "This is older than the base," he said, loud enough to carry. A soldier to his left, a stocky man named Pryor, leaned in. "Looks like she got it out of a cereal box." Laughter moved through the group. Easy laughter, the kind that doesn't require a good reason. Maya didn't react. Her hands were at her sides, her eyes on the scanner. "Run it," she said. Graves smiled the smile of someone about to make a point. He slid the card through. The machine hummed. Then it stopped. The humming was replaced by something else, a tone, sharp and high, the kind of sound that makes people look up from what they're doing without knowing why. A red indicator light flickered. Then the screen changed. Ghost protocol initiated. Clearance level, Omega. Subject, Echo 01. And beneath those words, the symbol. An eagle with broken wings, wrapped around a clock face. A symbol that had been removed from every active database at Northfield 6 years ago, during a classified restructuring that nobody below colonel rank had been briefed on. Graves stared at the screen. He tapped it, ran the card again. Same tone, same symbol. The soldiers behind him had gone quiet. One of them set down his coffee cup without looking at it. Another took a step back, the way people step back from something they don't understand. "This isn't in any active registry," Graves muttered, his voice lower now, the performance gone. Maya stood with her hands in her pockets, her face giving nothing away. The gate felt different now, the way rooms feel different when the air pressure changes before a storm. Nobody could have named what had shifted, but everyone present felt it. Captain Drew arrived the way people arrive when they want to establish that they're the solution to a problem. He was a broad man with close-cropped gray at his temples and the walk of someone who had spent 20 years being the loudest voice in any room. He took the ID from Graves without asking. "Omega clearance," he said, reading the screen, his tone doing the work of eye-rolling. "Omega clearance walks through the front gate in a canvas jacket." He looked at Maya, taking in the jacket, the boots, the satchel. "This is either the best forged credential I've ever seen, or you have no idea what you're holding. Or the third option," Maya said. Drew raised an eyebrow. "Run the secondary verification," she said. He laughed, not because it was funny, because he was still in the part of this story where laughing made sense. He ran the secondary verification. The system didn't respond the way systems respond. It went silent for 4 seconds, which is a long time for a machine, and then every screen in the checkpoint booth lit up simultaneously. Not with an error, with a confirmation cascade, the kind that only triggers for credentials that have been dormant so long the system needs to wake up 3 separate authentication layers to process them. Echo 01 confirmed. Biometric lock pending. All personnel stand by. Drew's laugh stopped mid-breath. Maya pressed her thumb to the lower corner of the ID card. A faint pulse of blue light ran across its surface. Not dramatic, not showy, just there. The scanner emitted a tone nobody had heard before. Not because the tone was unusual, because nobody present had ever been in the building when Omega clearance was processed. Subject confirmed. Access authorized. Welcome back, Echo 01. The gate unlocked. Drew stood with the ID still in his hand, looking at the screen, then at Maya, then at the screen again. The soldiers behind him had stopped pretending to be occupied with other things. Pryor, who had made the cereal box joke, was looking at his boots. Maya took the card back from Drew's hand. She put it in her satchel. She looked at him once, briefly, the way you look at a road you've already decided to stop driving on. Then she walked through the gate. And here's the part that changes everything. Because what Maya was walking toward, what she had come to Northfield specifically to find, was something that had been locked in a decommissioned file room for 6 years. Something that would explain why the Echo 01 program had been shut down without a formal review. Something that had a name on it. A name that should not have been there. Subscribe to Gray's story right now, because what she finds in that file room is the thing nobody at Northfield wanted found. And when it comes out, it doesn't just change what happened 6 years ago. It changes everything happening right now. Colonel Ashford arrived 11 minutes later, his boots hitting the corridor floor with the specific cadence of a man who had been interrupted doing something he considered more important. He was a tall man, thin in the way career military men sometimes go thin, all the softness burned away over decades. He had been at Northfield for 9 years. He had signed the order that decommissioned the Echo program. He found Maya in the records anteroom, signing the visitor log with the date and her real name. "You have a lot of nerve," he said. Not loudly. The quiet version was worse. Maya finished signing. "I have authorization," she said. "Your authorization is 6 years out of date." The system didn't seem to think so. Ashford's jaw tightened. He looked at the gate officers behind him, then back at Maya. He lowered his voice. "Whatever you think you're here for, I'm telling you, officially, as commanding officer of this installation, it isn't here." Maya looked at him for a moment. "Then you won't mind if I check." The sentence was quiet. It landed like something heavy. Ashford stood there, his authority doing the thing authority does when it meets something it can't quite classify. It got very still, calculating. He had 3 options. Deny her physical access, which the system's own authentication had made complicated. Escalate to general level, which would raise questions he didn't want raised. Or let her walk to the records room and manage whatever she found from a position where he had more control. He chose the third option. He told himself it was tactical. "Sergeant Finn will escort you," he said. Maya nodded. "I know the way," she said. "But thank you." The records room at Northfield was in the eastern wing, a part of the building that had the specific atmosphere of a space that receives official maintenance, but no human attention. Fluorescent lights, metal shelving, the smell of old paper, and something chemical underneath it. A woman named Sergeant Coles ran the room, late 40s, efficient, the kind of person who has been in the same position long enough to have stopped being surprised by anything. She looked up when Maya entered. "New clerk?" she said, the same way people ask questions they already know the answer to. "Visitor," Maya said. "Omega clearance. I need access to decommissioned files, Echo program, any material dated in the 6 years prior to the program's closure." Coles looked at her for a moment. Then she looked at the authorization code Maya placed on the desk. Then she looked at her computer. She typed something. Waited. "This clearance hasn't been active since 6 years ago," Maya said. "I know." Coles looked at the screen again. The authorization was valid. She had no procedural grounds to deny it. She stood and walked to a section of shelving in the back that had a different dust pattern than the rest, the dust of things that were sealed rather than ignored. She unlocked a gray cabinet and stepped back. "I'll be at my desk," she said, the way someone says a thing when they want to make clear they're not involved. Maya thanked her and began. She worked through the files with the methodical patience of someone who has done this before, in worse conditions, under worse circumstances. Each file opened, reviewed, closed. Her movements were precise without being fast. She wasn't looking for everything. She was looking for one thing. A private named Ellison poked his head into the records room at some point, drawn by whatever base-wide gossip had accumulated since the gate incident that morning. He looked at Maya, her canvas jacket, her satchel, her steady hands moving through files, and said, "Heard you caused quite a scene at the gate." Maya didn't look up. "I stood at a gate," she said. "The scene was someone else's." Ellison lingered. "They say your Echo program. That's been dead for 6 years. Programs get decommissioned," Maya said. "People don't." He didn't have an answer for that. He left. She kept working. The bass hummed around her, The radio traffic, the boots in corridors, the distant sound of something mechanical in the motor pool. Somewhere in the building, she knew, Ashford was on a phone. She had approximately 2 hours before whatever he was arranging was arranged. She worked faster. And then she found it. It was at the bottom of the third cabinet, in a folder marked decommissioned, administrative closure, the kind of label designed to make something look bureaucratic rather than buried. Inside was a roster. Names, dates, status designations in red ink. Most of the names were marked Kia, killed in action, the official designation for what had happened to the ECHO program's field team in the 6 years since shutdown. But one name wasn't marked Kia. One name was marked relocated, classified, which was a designation Maya had never seen on any official document in her career. It wasn't a standard classification. It wasn't in any protocol she'd been trained on. It was the name of the person she had come to Northfield to find. The person everyone had told her was dead. She stared at the page for a long moment. Her hand, which had been steady through every file, was not entirely steady now. She took a photograph of the page. She put the folder back exactly as she'd found it. She closed the cabinet. She walked to Coles's desk. "Thank you," she said. Coles looked up from her screen. Something in her expression had changed slightly, the kind of change that happens when a person has been sitting near something significant long enough to feel its weight. "Find what you needed?" she asked. "Yes," Maya said. Coles nodded slowly. "Whoever it is," she said, carefully, "I hope they're all right." Maya picked up her satchel. "So do I," she said. She was almost at the gate when Ashford found her. He was walking faster than he'd been walking before, which told her the phone call had not gone the way he'd planned. "The material in those files is classified above your current operational status," he said. "My current operational status," Maya said, without stopping, "was just reactivated by the system you run. I can have that reversed." "You can try." She paused at the gate. "But the photograph I took is already backed up to 3 external locations, and the person whose name I found in that folder, the one your files say was relocated classified, I'm going to find them. And when I do, I'm going to ask them exactly one question." She looked at Ashford directly. "And I think we both know you're more afraid of that question than you are of anything I might do with those files." Ashford said nothing. The gate scanner hummed. The eagle end clock symbol appeared on the screen one final time. Echo 01. Departure logged. Maya walked out into the gray morning, her satchel over her shoulder, her boots quiet on the wet pavement. Behind her, the base resumed its noise, the radio traffic, the engines, the boots on concrete. But in the gate booth, in the records room, in Ashford's office, things were not resuming. Things were beginning. The soldiers who had laughed at Maya that morning had a particular quality to their silence by afternoon. It wasn't shame exactly. It was something more complicated, the specific discomfort of having performed certainty about something that turned out to be uncertain. Graves was reassigned by end of shift, the paperwork processed with the efficiency of something Ashford wanted done quietly. Pryor stopped making jokes, at least for a while. Drew was quiet in a way that the people who worked with him would remember, because Drew was never quiet. None of it was Maya's doing. None of it required her attention. She had been somewhere else since she left the gate, on a road heading north, toward a city that appeared on no official map as a relocation site for decommissioned ECHO program personnel, with a name on a photograph and a question she had been carrying for 6 years. The question was simple. 3 words. Are you safe? She didn't know yet if the answer was yes. She didn't know what she would find when she arrived at the address she'd extrapolated from 3 pieces of information in a folder marked administrative closure, information that someone had tried very hard to make unfindable. They had almost succeeded. She drove north as the gray morning became a gray afternoon became a gray evening, the kind of light that makes the world look like it's still deciding what to do. The photograph was on the seat beside her. She didn't look at it again. She had memorized what it said the moment she saw it. She had memorized the name the moment she read it. She had been looking for that name for 6 years. Whatever she found at the end of this road, whatever the word relocated meant in practice, whatever the classified silence around that name had been protecting or obscuring, she was going to find it. Not because she had authorization. Not because the system had woken up and called her Echo 01. But because some things don't end just because someone files the paperwork saying they did. Some things stay alive in the people who refuse to stop looking. She drove through the gray evening, and the road ahead of her disappeared into the distance, and she kept going. Subscribe to Gray Story, because the road she's driving doesn't end where anyone expects.